Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. Today marks the episode number 299. I cannot believe, because when I started this podcast, I thought maybe I may last for 50 episodes, maybe 100, but I did not think that we will reach 300 episodes. And for episode 299, because it holds a special value for me, I've invited someone who is very close to my life, actually, who has been a business partner with me, who I call a brother as well, and a mentor, Eric Peoples. And Eric is here, and I don't have his bio. I'm not reading from anywhere. I have known him since 2009. We have worked together, sitting side by side. We have also operated our IT business together. We are partners in IT business, and we have basically bought a 9-unit apartment building together. We have invested in a cannabis development company. We have invested in a crypto mining business. So we have been together in a lot of businesses, and I have learned a lot from him. So I wanted to bring you guys one of the best who I think is in the investment world. So welcome, Eric.
Hey, thanks, Alpesh. It's best in the investment world is a little.
Yeah, I know. I've seen
yeah.
you do, and of course, none of us have to make multi-million or billions to learn a lot of things. So thank you for teaching me about business, right? IT business, of course, and then also showing me how you are investing in single family. And that is how I got started. So I am personally looking forward to this episode, because even though I know a lot about you, I may not know a lot of things which went in your mind when you started investing. So this will be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it too. Since day one, I've been looking forward to it, man.
So tell us something interesting or funny about yourself.
Oh, I mean, something odd, I guess. I was born on the same day as my dad.
Wow, yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and my wife was born on the same day as my mom.
That's
And
crazy. That is
the
crazy.
odds are probably pretty
Now I remember. And
Yeah.
Another thing I did not mention, Eric is what, 6'7"?
Yeah, 6'7",
And his brother is, if I remember, 6'9" or something like that.
7'2".
6'10". Oh, 7'2", man.
Much
So
big. Makes me look little.
exactly. So I always felt that, okay, I was an average height at 5'10", and when I hang out with these two guys right next to me, I felt like I was so little. I felt like a dwarf.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your first real estate investment. What was it?
To think about it, it was actually, we bought vacant land and in Ridgecrest. So as you know, I grew up in a kind of a smaller town and you've been to Ridgecrest and
Yes, a couple of
Ridgecrest.
times.
Yeah. So it's about 2 hours northeast of Los Angeles. A friend of mine and we bought a vacant land. It was about maybe an acre and a half, desert land, right at the edge of town. And we had grand plans to turn that land into a multi-family manufacturing home park, because he had that deal with the manufactured homes. So we were going to try to put a bunch of manufactured homes on it. So our first thing, neither one of us had really done anything like this. So we bought the land, we held the land. It had a big, huge pool in it. Like, I mean, the biggest pool you could ever imagine. Dry, empty pool. Funny. So it's just like a ditch with concrete that was probably 2 to 3 times the size of an Olympic pool in the middle of the land. And we thought we were going to fill it in and turn it into this, and that didn't work. We ended up we held the land for maybe a year and a half, and then ultimately sold it, got lucky, sold it to a church that turned it into a parking lot. We didn't make any money on it, but we didn't lose any money, right? So basically got what we put back into it a year and a half later. So the money just sat there for a while, paying monthly payments, and it's kind of not a good first experience.
That is interesting, though. Knowing you since 2009, you always look for safe investments. So it's funny that your very first real estate investment, you wanted to go big.
We didn't know any way other, right? You know, it was just
Right.
try something out, you know.
So then, why did you switch? And what was your first single family rental investment, and when was it?
So I think similar to you. So I bought a townhouse in Sherman Oaks in LA in 2005. And then when I moved for work, if you remember, relocated to London. We lived in London for a year. And then after London, we moved to San Francisco. When I moved to San Francisco, I ended up renting out the townhouse.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly how both
yeah,
of us did.
yeah. And so that was my first kind of rental, I guess. It wasn't bought as a rental, but I lived there for 5 or 6 years. Then in 2011, 2012, turned it into a rental and lived in San Francisco for a couple of years.
So that was 2011, 2012. And then, as you mentioned, in Ridgecrest, you started investing after that. So what all did you do in Ridgecrest then, from
So
investment wise?
I think my first investment in Ridgecrest was I bought right after the crash. There was um, uh, kind of a housing area. I don't know what to call it, but there was 400 units in this area, and I had bought three of it's military housing, so it was like duplexes, so
Got it.
single story duplexes, try 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms right next to each other, and then a bunch of plots. So I bought three of those dirt cheap and started renting those out. Had those for a year or so, and then bought a fourplex and bought a sixplex, I believe, as well. And so for a while, that's all I had in Ridgecrest, you know.
Yeah, I remember when you bought the fourplex because we were working together and
Yeah,
you were always talking about it. And that's one of the thing I liked about you is that you didn't want you don't hide stuff. You
right.
want to talk about things what you are doing. It's not about just keeping money to yourself, but you always want to teach others as well. And that's how I started learning. I'm like, okay, I'm renting my a townhouse, so I understand how landlording works. And then you started talking about investing where numbers work, right? Because where we were, LA and San Francisco, the numbers did not work, right? So we were like, when you started talking about it, opened my mind that okay, I don't have to worry about where I live. I want to make sure that I invest where numbers make sense. And as long as I have, I invest in a good location with the right property manager, things will fall into place. Right.
Yeah.
So I remember then, you bought 6 units and then you and I
Yeah.
together bought a 9 unit building apartment in Ridgecrest in, I remember the day as well, March of 2017. It was, I think, 19th March or something. So
Oh.
yeah, because we opened the LLC together and we were going through everything. And at first we struggled and we of course sold it in 2020, I think
Yeah,
20, yeah,
2020.
2020. I wish we would have held on to it, I wish we would have sold it in 2019. We were getting more money and then we had the
We held
earthquake
it one more year. If we would have held it
yeah,
one more year, and I mean, you can never time it, but if we would have held it one
exactly.
more year, we would have done better. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we did okay. We
we
did
still did
okay.
okay, no complaints.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you were also working on some office buildings.
Yeah. So in 2019, we bought with two other friends, we bought a 20 unit commercial office building. Well, actually, before that, we had actually bought a 31 unit apartment complex.
Right.
So we first bought the apartment complex. That was more of a standard purchase, right? We bought it. It was, my friend and partner on the real estate side in Ridgecrest, he owns a property management company, so we have that advantage.
Yes, I know.
We bought that. You know him very well too. We bought that apartment complex, got it rented out. It did its thing. It wasn't cash flowing like we wanted it to, but at the end of the day, we did very well on it. But it's still it was there. We then bought a 20 unit commercial property that was dilapidated. So we bought it and we had to completely gut it and remodel it and get it going. Yeah.
So that is interesting because you started with a vacant land, single family, then we did apartment building and then office. why did you switch and how did that work out for you?
Funny, the office, literally, we were driving down the street and we saw this build from when I was a kid. I saw these buildings. Well, I remember these buildings used to be beautiful, and and he was like, "Yeah, it's for sale. It's been vacant for a year. It's for sale." And we're like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. Wonder if we just throw out a number if they'll accept it." There was no plan to get into commercial real estate. It was just two buildings. We're familiar with them. We knew we could get them rented out.
Right.
We figured there was a lot of work. Thought maybe we could get a good deal because
Mhm.
they were in such bad shape. So I just reached out to the owner, found out who owned it, reached out to him. Thought I was reaching out to an agent. It was actually the owner.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so he responded back, didn't outright reject our offer, and said, let's talk. So we talked to him, found out it was actually in foreclosure. It was about to get auctioned off.
Oh,
So he
okay.
said, "Hey, we got to move quick." We we said, "We'll let us look through it." We walked through it. And did you ever go tour that building? Did you ever see
No,
that?
no, that building I never did.
Oh, they were in bad shape, man.
I know you were telling me, so I remember
Really.
all the
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. We bought it. We ended up going through with it. Ended up buying it. Probably paid a little more than what we needed to. Hindsight, like we could have saved a little
Right.
bit. And then we started working on it. And actually, in the same time, we bought another sixplex. Um, and same thing, it was terrible shape, but we got it for a really good price. Bought the sixplex, started remodeling both of those buildings at the same time, bit off way more than we can chew.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And this was 2019.
Yes.
And at the same time, if you're familiar with Ridgecrest, is where those big earthquakes were.
Yes, that's
So,
why I
yeah,
remember it very well because we were under contract for 9 unit
yes,
and we would
it
have,
fell out because of that. Yeah,
yes, because of that
yeah,
earthquake. Otherwise, we would have made 40 grand more at that time than
yeah,
when we sold it in 2020.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
do remember that time exactly. It was like 6.1 earthquake or something.
Seven,
Oh,
seven.
7.
Yeah,
Yes. Ooh.
yeah. 4th of July weekend, we were actually there.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. And we had bought that commercial building maybe 6 months earlier. So
That's
and
scary.
we bought it on hard money too.
Right.
So we bought it on hard money. There was nothing was rented out. It was completely dilapidated. We were in the middle of fixing it up. The earthquake hits. We saw a huge, like, it's like a horseshoe. There's two buildings, one single story, one two-story. Two-story one was like a horseshoe, and with stairs going up the middle, buildings or units on the top and on the bottom. And we saw a huge crack along the foundation, or not the foundation, but the wall, I guess, in the middle there.
Oh,
Started getting real nervous, like we had some real damage from the earthquake. I don't know if we even had an earthquake insurance at the time because it
most
was,
of us don't.
yeah, it was our money too. So we got, luckily no damage. Continued working on it through an earthquake. Got probably towards the end of 2019, got one of the two buildings done and started getting our first tenant in there. So we at least had some income coming in.
Nice.
Then early 2020 hit, COVID.
Right.
So still freaking out,
Yeah.
now, luckily Ridgecrest is a base, a naval base. So
Right.
the tenants that we had, even though one of them never even went into the building, signed the lease, COVID hit, never went in and never missed a payment. Continued paying
Wow.
throughout all of 20, or the first part of 2020, continued paying. So we had income coming in at least while we finished the other building.
Right.
Towards the end of 2020, we started getting tenants in the other building, and now we're about 80% rented or so.
That's great.
And yeah, luckily, we got it at a great price. We put all our own money into fixing it up. We refinanced in 2021 out of the hard money. And now we're cash flow positive when it's about 45% rented.
That's
At
awesome.
80% rented,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
You're
it's a
you're
good one. Yeah.
you're pretty much killing it. So,
Yeah, it was scary though. It was scary.
no, so again, you are, of course, you are way ahead of me, but you are like me, where you and I look at, real estate, and then we are like, okay, even though we don't know about this thing, it may be worth trying, right? So, and that is why I saw that you started looking at car washes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
exactly as I said, the office building to trying to build a mobile home park to single family and duplexes. Why invest in a car wash?
So, yeah, I mean, sometimes I ask myself that same question when it first came up, right? So, and when you said I like safe things, I do, but I also take risks. I'm similar to you, right?
Yes, yeah,
I
yeah,
like
we
safe, but
both,
I
yeah.
I
We
risk, you know.
we have to our portfolio has to match, right? So you always want to have like 50% at least in the safe assets, but you also want some outsized risks, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much that's how it works. You got to, that's why you and I invest in cryptos.
Cryptos and then the cannabis one too. Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure we don't want to. We'll talk about that one, but
Yeah.
there's some not all winners, you know.
So yeah,
Um,
car washes though.
car washes, yeah. So actually, car wash. We bought the car wash in 2021 with the
Mhm.
same guy with Tim. You know, um, he came to me and said, "Hey, this owner wants to sell this car wash," and they came to him to list it. He was adamant that, hey, we should buy it. We should buy it. I went and looked at it. I was like, man, you're buying yourself a job, right? Because it's
Yeah.
so from a car wash standpoint, I've learned a lot about car washes in the last 2 years. From a car wash standpoint, what we have is two in-bay automatics. So it's one of those when you drive your car in,
Uh-huh.
go to the POS, you type in whatever you're going to do, and then the lights come on, you drive yourself in, does the wash while you're in the car, and you drive yourself out, right?
Got it.
There's some vacuums and two manual bays as well. So when we went to look at it, right off the bat, the owners was very, very transparent, said you're going to need to replace the two in-bay automatics. They're
Oh, okay.
20-year-old equipment.
Of course.
Time to replace it.
Takes
Right?
time.
So we're like, okay, we took that into consideration. They gave us the numbers. Car washes are in one way fairly easy to confirm, but at the same time difficult because it is a cash business in some degree. So,
Right.
I can easily see that, the car wash does X amount of cars a day, right? That's because there's within the various
Right.
systems and we're systems guys, right? So once I get to
Yep.
the data, I can actually see and compare, and right. So we can see that how many washes or how many units are done every day. We can see, what the average cost is per unit for the credit cards, right? You can't, we couldn't see any of the cash. When we bought it, they said, hey, we deposit X amount of cash into the account, but at the same time, some of that cash we keep to ourselves, right? Right. So,
Right. Of course.
so you kind of got to take their word for it a little bit. We did some research. You can determine how many cars drive by,
Yes.
so you go to Compass, you can figure all that out.
Yeah.
The numbers that they were telling us, I kept looking at them. Oh, wow, if those are real, those are really good numbers, and so he just kept saying it. I mean, we looked at it for 6 months before we actually pulled the trigger. Part of it was we needed some of the cash because we knew we would have to buy the property. We bought not only the business but the land and the business, right? So we bought everything. So we would need to buy the property. Luckily, they were willing to carry back some, so they carried a
That's
small note.
great. Yeah.
And we knew we'd also have to put in quite a bit. It's a very capital intensive business
Mm-hmm.
to build from the beginning. So to redo all the car wash systems, we had to do that as well. Yeah, and he convinced me. We did it, and at first it was very, yeah. He bought himself a job, but once we realized, the potential of it, we just figured it out, and really worked on it. Put the money in, figured it out. It was honestly touch and go for a while. Like we got it right when we got it. We had a great month with the old equipment. Beautiful
Okay.
month. I think I probably told you, oh, this
Yes.
is the
Yeah.
best thing ever.
Yeah. You told me.
Yeah. Great 1 or 2 months, and then things just started breaking down. And then we were down for a day, and down for a week. Couldn't get it back up. All kinds of problems. So eventually, we bought it in April of 2021. I think we finally made a decision we need to replace all the equipment in
Right.
August 2021, pulled the trigger and, bought it all. And then by November of 2021, we were back up and running. It was supposed to be a 1 month install and ended up taking about 10 weeks.
Of course.
Even once it was live, it took another 4 weeks of dialing it in, and we were constantly having more problems than we had with the old equipment, right? So which didn't make you happy after you spent
Yeah,
$500
that's
million.
scary, right? Because you
Yeah.
think that, okay, if I put new equipment in and if I have more problems, does that mean my plumbing has issues? Does it mean my electricals have issues, right? Because now we are opening Pandora's box.
Yeah, and we actually redid all our plumbing. All the plumbing was
Of
brand new.
course, I
Yeah.
guess you end up.
But the electrical thing is a good point. We did have electrical issues with the power, how much we were drawing from the grid.
Ah,
We had to redo some things because the new equipment was drawing more power.
right.
So we did have that. We had issues like that. And then just getting it to work, the equipment is finicky. Like it runs, but then you have it breaks, and then you have the people factor, right?
Yeah.
You can have a red light saying don't move
Doesn't
forward.
matter.
Somebody's going to move forward and they hit
We'll,
that.
we'll
and then-
always find morons, right?
Yeah. People, the general public is the people factor, right? You can't, it's hard to plan for that,
Yeah.
so.
Think about it, right? And yeah, I think you said it really well. Even when we are sitting at the traffic light, right? It's red, and you will always see some people looking at their phone and then driving through the red light, right? And sometimes killing people, right? Or injuring. Right?
Yeah,
So-
luckily with the car wash, the red light is just saying, don't come in there. No one's gonna die.
right, but
Yeah, knock on wood, but it hits the little arm and throws everything off, and someone needs to go
Right.
reset it. So there's always issues, right? And then
Right.
right when we got it, we get dialed it in. Couple months, we started to see it going up, and I was starting to feel good again. And then probably in the spring, it exploded. Like it was exceeding all the numbers we were hoping,
Nice.
for 3 months. And then over the summer, it crashed, and we started having problems. And at the same time, I'm going on vacation and he's going on vacation.
I remember that you telling
Yeah,
me.
I was in Aruba trying to dial into a network, and I'm not a networking guy, that, right? But at least I can look at it and be like, this is so. And we're trying to figure it out, and finally got it working. We had to have a networking guy go in and actually do some work for us, and got it all working again. And once again, I'd probably say June, July, it didn't do that well. And then August, September started doing well again. And then November, this last month, the weather was terrible.
Right.
In crest, and the worst month we've had so far. First time we actually didn't. We were in the negative, in the red, for November.
Wow. So now that you have owned it since April of 2021, and with new equipment since November last year, what does your 1 year data show from November to this November? Right, because now you can literally look at 1 year data and see what it's doing.
It's definitely worth it. So from a cash on cash standpoint, in 1 year, off the top of my head, I mean, we're in it for, it's probably doing 12%, 15%. And that includes paying off, I mean, that's just pure profit. So
paying all the mortgage and everything.
Everything.
That's great in this market right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So it's definitely worth it. Yeah.
And then now as you mentioned, because I could clearly see when you said that, spring was great, then summer did dip a little bit. So there is, even in car washes, there seems to be some seasonality to it, right?
I don't know if it's seasonality as much as it is, well, yes, definitely seasonality, but it's like Ridgecrest is a desert, right? So it's weather, and you want a little bit of weather. And this is what we learned. Like I thought the summers would be great because it's just hot and it's just sunny. So people want to clean their car, but that's really not the case. What you want is the spring and the fall when it's warm, nice, and a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, dirties up the cars. Those are the busy times.
That is what is important.
So there's tons of learnings. Car wash, there's so much learnings, and we're still learning, but we are actively looking for more. And as you know, we've come close to one in La Jolla, which maybe we should have done, maybe we shouldn't have. There's one up in Visalia that we're talking to right now.
Yes.
So we're
you and I are chatting about it. So yeah, when the time comes, I can go take a look at La Jolla as well as Visalia when we are ready. But talking about that, what kind of due diligence do you perform when you are looking at car washes?
Yeah, I mean, the normal from a real estate standpoint, right? You do the due diligence about the real estate and the area and the building itself, right? Take the business out of it and just do the normal. This is what we do. We do the normal, what you're looking for from the actual property standpoint. So is it a good property in a nice area, or not nice area, but at least a very traveled area?
C class, yeah.
Yeah, B2C, very traveled. But with car wash, like the La Jolla one was in a beautiful area.
Yeah, that is whole different when it's in A class.
Yeah, A plus, that
Yeah,
that's
La
and
Jolla
that's a
yeah.
great location. But so B to A plus, right? Make sure the area is right. So you do that, and then when you start looking at the business itself, just like that whole trust but verify type of thing, right? Because they're going to tell you it does this. They're going to tell you it could do more, or we keep X amount of cash on the side. That's hard to justify. That is not, proven. So like I said, we're system guys, so we can go into the systems, we can pull the data. I know to pull the raw data from the various systems. You can do the POS, you can do all the comparisons, and really kind of trying to find out what is there anything jumping out that doesn't make sense, right? That's really what I'm looking for. Like I can take from a face value on what they're telling me they're doing easily. I can then go and pull the POS. I can pull the actual car wash system, what their car counts are. I can do all the traffic patterns. I can do everything. And then all I do is put it up in Excel, start looking about what they're telling me, what the credit cards show, what the cash shows. And is there anything that really jumps out of me that doesn't align, right? We're just trying to find that needle that says, hey, they're manipulating something here, or something is not right, and that's where I really wanted to look and see, do I trust the data? And then once you trust the data, does it pencil out, right? And if it pencils out, worth getting, in my opinion, right?
Man, this is great. So I can't wait to invest in a car wash with you, man. So
yeah, no, I can't wait for the next one. For sure.
So let's talk about your overall journey, right? What are some of the mistakes you have made with your investments?
I'm sure tons of mistakes. I think one thing that I've learned from the mistakes, or I don't want to call it a big mistake, but buying into the vision or the trust of somebody else without verifying enough, right? Like, I love syndications. I love passive investments. I love being able to say, here's an allocation of money. Go ahead and make me 10% in a year and then triple it in, what I mean, when you sell out. Of course I want to, right? And sometimes it sounds so good, and not necessarily too good to be true, but everything sounds good, and you do some base due diligence, and you put trust in the person, and once you've given up that money, you have no more control.
Right.
So, and I think that's where you say I like safe. It's not necessarily that I like safe. I'm not a control freak, but I like to have my hands in it. I like to know that, hey, if it fails, if something goes wrong, it's my fault, and I can live with that.
Right.
What bothers me is if something goes wrong, or I make the mistake and it's somebody else's fault, then it makes me madder at me, that I'm like, I could have failed myself. I didn't need to enable somebody else to fail. Right. So I think that's kind of, but at the same time, hey, I have all kind of syndications, right?
I know.
I'm diversified. I like to be safe. I like to have control. I take the risks, but I think it's just, don't put too much blind faith and trust in others. Obviously you have your close niche group, and, I'm all about, investing with those and us. And right. We have, like you said, we have a few businesses together, but, I think I've learned to try to tame down my excitement a little bit, and maybe do a little more due diligence.
I think it has to do with our age, man. We don't get excited too often now.
Not anymore. Yeah. I've seen it all.
Exactly. What has been your best deal so far?
It's hard. It might be the commercial building we talked about, but until that exits, until that comes to a conclusion, it's hard to say. right now, knock on wood, it's going well. I'm happy with it. Ideally, it runs another 5 years as is now, and then we sell it, and then that would be a very, very good one. But until that happens, I'd probably have to go with we had bought and I told you we bought a single family in North Hollywood. And when we bought it, it was zoned incorrect. Not that it was zoned incorrectly, it was the way it was zoned in a industrial area for residential use was not the best use case for the property.
Right. I've been to that property and we were
Yeah,
planning
yeah,
to partner on it. I remember
yeah.
that.
So that one, I bought that one. I don't even remember what year that was, 2017, maybe
Yeah,
2016.
2016 or 17. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I bought that one, single family. And so you remember they're really industrial, right in an industrial street,
It's right in the middle of industrial. Yes.
yeah, in a house, right in the middle of industrial and a house, right? So what we did was bought it, uh, gutted it. We didn't change the zoning, but we increased the power capacity. So, we put a, much larger power, to the property instead of residential, we, three-phase, triple phase, 800 amp, I believe, put it in there and made it more of a, not commercial, but more of like an industrial park for the house. And we gutted the house so it kind of looked like very open. And we in the back we put a not a garage, but like a covering over the back area. Yeah, not even a shed. I mean, we just really covered they had an open garage. So we covered that and we covered it across the whole length of the property, ran all the power back there so it could now be used as a warehouse. And turned around and sold it. I'd say we had it for maybe 2 years.
Yeah, about a couple of
and
years.
almost tripled our money, and it
Wow.
was, it was good, quick,
That's
and
pretty fast. Yeah.
yeah, it was good, quick, and not that it was easy, but it wasn't. I mean, we really didn't do much, we just kind of saw an opportunity and identified a better use case for that opportunity. Honestly, it wasn't even what we originally planned to do with it. But once we got into it and saw, we're like, oh, let's take care of this and get rid of it. So it worked out really well.
Oh, that's great, man. What
Yeah.
has been your worst deal so far, and what did you learn from it?
My worst. Same thing, there hasn't been a horrible one that's come to an end yet. There's the cannabis cultivation one, right? That's probably it right now. Is probably my worst, but I still have hope with that one.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Your fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I haven't talked to you. I haven't mentioned to you, but I did get a call, a week or so ago with nothing specific news, but just kind of generic potential news, asking some questions about, where some of our partners had property because in certain states, they couldn't have ownership in there. So, so knock on wood, hopefully by Christmas we have some kind of news, but who knows? We've been here
That would
before.
be a Christmas gift, man.
Yeah. We've been there before with positive stuff and nothing.
Exactly.
So I'm not
No,
even sharing anything. That
Till
one,
it's
as of right now,
till
is my
it's
worst one.
concrete and 100%. Nope.
Yeah. Right now,
No,
that's the worst one. Yeah.
No, I know I am in it with you as well. So of course, as you and I said, we are diversified, but we also take enough risks, and sometimes some of those risks don't pan out. And
Yeah.
that is how it works with every investor, be it
Yeah.
Warren Buffett or Sam Zell or anyone else, right? Or people, the venture capitalists, right? They invest in startups, and 98% or 99% of the time they fail.
Yeah.
Right, but that
Yeah.
1% they get outsized returns, and that's the key,
Yeah.
right?
That's probably more my crypto strategy, right?
Yes, that is what we try with cryptos,
Yeah.
correct? No, this was awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Are you ready for fire round?
Yeah. You see?
Would you be changing any business or investment strategy because of inflation or recession? And you and I have been waiting for recession, or at least we know
Yeah.
it's coming.
That's what I mean. Probably the only change would be if you would compare and what. So probably gonna go off target a little bit, but I do think recession's coming. I think how big or how bad, I don't know.
Right. No, I
But
got it.
if you just look at our business, like yours and I, our business from the consulting standpoint, 2008 to 2012 was my best years ever.
Right.
Before we started, by far, right? And the same pattern is materializing now. For the
Ah,
last 4 to 6 months, I've been inundated, right, on that
right.
side of it. So I see it. So if you just patterns repeat, if that pattern continues, then what I want to do different because of the recession is be a little more aggressive on the purchase of assets, real
Hmm.
assets. I mean, I'll still buy some crypto when it crashes even
Right.
more.
Right.
I'm still
Like
going to buy some
real
more of that.
assets.
But yeah, real asset, like real estate, I'll probably go a little bit heavier than, I had the opportunity in 2008. I haven't had it again in 2000. You and I together had it again in
Yes.
2020, right? This time I'll probably go a little bit heavier, and actually still be safe and conservative. But I was in 2008, 2010. I was very conservative. I didn't
Right.
know.
Right. We were scared. We didn't know.
Yeah,
Right. Also, we were learning.
yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
so I think I'll be a little more aggressive, hopefully in the right areas, and we'll see.
Oh,
But
that's
that'd be
great.
the only
That,
change.
that makes so much sense, man. Favorite, I know you don't read a lot of book, but favorite real estate or finance or any other related book.
Yeah, it's going to be cliche, but the rich dad, poor dad, that's
Yes.
kind of changed my whole mentality, right? So, and you're right, that was a terrible thing to say. I don't read books, but I don't read that many books.
I know. I know you so well, man.
I do listen to podcasts a lot. I
Yes.
listen to your podcast. I listen to
Nice.
Bigger Pockets podcast. I listen to a lot of crypto podcasts.
Right.
So I do. I instead of read, I just listen. I listen to ebooks and stuff when I drive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember that because you have to drive when you commute, that's the
Yeah,
best way to spend time.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Any tool or website you recommend? Maybe it's on, your system side processes, or it's regarding investment.
I mean, all the normal, I mean, research stuff, right? You can go to Compass, you can go to Bigger Pockets, you can do all that. But I think a good understanding of Excel
Yeah.
and
Yes.
truly being able to model out what you're trying to do. And it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be all these crazy formulas
Right.
and right. If you can just take the base, what your expenses are, what your profit's going to be, what your income's going to be, and truly understand it and put it in Excel and model it so it makes sense to you. I think Excel is the most powerful business tool out there that anyone can pick up and really get a lot of benefit from, or Google Sheets if you don't want to pay
Right.
for Excel, right? So,
Right. And I've seen you use Excel really well, by the way. So I do remember you'll not plan out, even on our IT business side, or, you could forecast right away that
yeah.
if we make this much, this is how much our profit would be, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, this is great, man. He knows exactly where we are going.
And it's simple, right? I'm not no
You know?
complicated, no fanciness. It's
Yeah.
straightforward,
Yeah, the
So
people, whenever people try to make it fancier, a lot of time they forget what they were trying to achieve, right?
yeah,
And the thing is, when they share it with others, right? Let's say investors or business partners, now that Excel loses a lot of the meaning, right, or the value proposition.
yeah,
So yes, I agree. Keep it simple.
yeah, yeah.
Any advice for beginner investors?
Yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to get out there. Um, do your due diligence, right? Truly try to understand what you're getting into. Um, be willing to take some risks, but don't risk more than you can afford to lose, right? At the end of the day, not every investment, but 90% of the things I do, once I put the money in it from a mental standpoint, it's gone,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And I'm okay with that. I don't want to lose anything, and knock on wood, to this date, I haven't. The cannabis thing could be something different, and that would hurt me, but it wouldn't, it would suck. I'm an idiot. I made a bad decision, but it doesn't affect my day-to-day life, right? So, I mean, once you get to that point, to just, don't risk more than you can lose. Be prepared to lose, and just do all your due diligence, and hopefully you never lose anything, right?
Oh, that's awesome, man. How do you give back?
Uh, like you said, I'm pretty transparent. So I'm very open to people and helping when it's needed, right? Just from people I work with or whatnot that want to get into this space and want to look at different ways that they can potentially use their money to earn more money. I'm very, very transparent, very open with what I'm doing, and then I don't like, I wouldn't say I have like a formal um, charitable strategy or anything like that, but I'm very generous if, more on a random basis. If somebody in the market is, you never know, but if they appear to be needing help or unable to buy some food or something like that, returning food, and as a single mom with some kids or a mom with some kids, I'll pay for it, or I'll do things like that, help out others that need help, but no formal strategy or anything.
No, that's awesome, man. How can my listeners reach out to you?
I didn't really have anything like that set up through you, easily through you.
Right, of course.
You can go to www.ogtet.com, TET.com, and that's kind of gives you a little thing of all the stuff that we got going on or that I got going on. It's probably the best way to do it. Or through Alpesh. It's probably the easiest way if anyone wants to.
You may respond faster if someone reaches out through me.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. This was great. Thank you so much, Eric, for your time today, man. Again,
Yeah.
I knew a lot about you, but even talking to you today, I learned even a lot more. So I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Alpesh. And all the kind words at the beginning, it's really appreciative. And, I've learned from you too, from day one. It wasn't like I knew, I mean, what was it, 12 years ago or?
Yes, more than 12,
Well,
13 years, man.
Yeah. So I was still, still trying to figure everything out. So,
Yeah,
I think the only
September
thing,
of 2009, man.
yeah, I think the only thing I had ahead of you at that point was the business. I had already
Yes.
built the first business before you and I combined for the second business, right? So I had been through that cycle once, But other than that, I had my real estate. I owned the single family, the townhouse in Sherman Oaks, similar to you,
Yeah.
right? And then with my partner in Ridgecrest, I was able to kind of jumpstart some of the other stuff, and you got to watch that and see me mess things up. And
Yeah, no, it was really amazing actually watching you and talking to him. And then
yeah,
because we were sitting next to each other, I would hear, I would know, I'll ask you what's
that's right.
going on. So it was so easy to learn.
Yeah.
No, this was great, man. Thank you so much for your time again. And as I said, thank you so much for all the guidance you have provided me so far.
No, I appreciate it. It goes both ways. So. Like what you're doing with Wealth Matters, as I've told you before, is truly impressive, from when you first started it to now and stuff. So
Yeah.
I remember when you first told me you were doing it, I was like, oh, podcast? Oh, okay. But I tell my wife all the time, oh, it's really impressive what he put together, And like the syndications, I never knew anything about syndications before you, so
Right.
taught me all that. So.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing!